I'm going to really introduce you to a process we've developed over the last probably about 12 years actually. Does anyone recognise this photograph? Anybody know where it is? Singapore, yeah. And it's Marina Sands, quite close to there. And what they've done is they've grown, they've got plants that they sell which grow in these towers. And it's quite interesting really to be involved in technology that builds ecosystems around actually having something that's useful for people as well as just the technology. So what we're going to do is just show you a few slides that really describe the process that we've been involved in and actually where it came from. Many years ago, we worked with companies like Shell and Tibbetty Britain, and ABB, and it's purely on the strategy level. And the process itself was really a diagnostic. It was actually asking, I suppose, the right questions. Most businesses, if you get involved in business, perhaps don't know what real questions ought to be. So we developed a process which asked the right questions. That's the only way it could be started. And we did rather well. We worked with the research and technology part of Shell, based in Thornton in Cheshire. And we actually did so well because we were really a marketing company. They asked us whether the techniques that we use, which are creative techniques, could actually work with patents and new products and new services and so on. So we tried it out and it seemed to work. So much so we actually launched a new company called Shell Global Solutions. I think it's got about £1 billion, well probably dollars, turnover now. But so we had some really major successes in the process that we devised. This is a quote from Dr. Alan Samuel, and it's interesting that what the client perceives the way these processes work is probably more important than the way I see it. And he described it as exposes unseen connections. And it is really about connectivity. I'll show you a little bit more of the detail in a moment. This is started off as a board, as you can see that, whereby it was like a visual mind map where people contributed their thoughts and ideas into a particular construct. So it wasn't just like dumping ideas down, it was actually in a coordinated, structured way. And we've done this with different universities throughout the world, including in Chicago and various other places. And this is some software we've developed based on that process. And I don't know whether you can see it clearly there, but this is for a Chamber of Commerce. So they're using it as an overall management tool, a diagnostic, which is the way it was designed originally, asking the right questions in a particular way. It was a visualization process as opposed to a literal process. And the sort of other spin-offs is that it's a great team building tool. So based on the original ideas of helping businesses to grow, asking the right questions, we found then that it was really helpful in educating people. So we obviously used it in universities, it's used in colleges now, it's used in primary schools even. It is quite simple, the software. The software supports the process. So as you can see, we've used it, it's actually a very versatile tool. And even though the circles may think, well, you've only got a very short description, the circles open up and give you a lot of information, as much information as you can possibly want. Because each bubble, as you see there, can open to another matrix. So you can put Wikipedia into it, virtually. So we've used for the Chartered Institute of Marketing to help them with innovation in the UK. And again, one of the spin-offs is that it's a great team builder. And we're working with Jaguar Land Rover to help build their teams up at the moment. So it's more of a collaborative effort, but much more coordinated. So it's great on decision making. Again, another spin-off for us is that you have to, as you probably know if you know anything about business, this is all about the mindset. It doesn't matter how much money you've got or how much marketing. The mindset isn't right, it's not going to work. So we do take great pains to develop leaders within the business or within education, so that actually they're innovating in the right way, if you can put it that way. Does this make sense so far? Okay, this is an example of a company called Baker Goodchild, and we're quite pleased with the association because they see it like as an absolute gold mine for them, and really it's giving them a clearer way to, I suppose, make more profits. And this is a graph that they've actually used, which allows them to make more profits, because I think the thinking is a lot clearer than it was previously. So it's a very, very powerful process. This is interesting because it's about managing IT. What we found is that whilst we've moved into business and education, and very recently into healthcare, we've had people like in IT saying they love it because it helps them to organise themselves. In fact, he says here that if any system goes down, they're able to identify it quite quickly. And there are obviously there's alert features in this as well, so it's a project management tool amongst everything else. So this is something else that we were pulled into, is how do we help the long-term unemployed? This is Job Centre Plus in the UK. And what people usually lack is actually confidence in decision making. So the whole process is about building up their faith in themselves, if you like, or the confidence to make better decisions. This is one we're particularly proud of. St Andrews is supposed to be the largest mental health care in the UK, and they've asked us to trial this out in Mansfield. We presented to the directors, and their comments was it was the future of healthcare, because what we were looking at was empowering the actual patients themselves, so they can actually plan their own healthcare. Obviously they would be overseen by the doctors and whatever, but nevertheless the application was overseen, and they were taking ownership, the patients themselves, of their own healthcare. And we've used this in the same way in education, where the students take ownership of their own learning. So we've introduced the process into primary schools, secondary schools, and colleges and universities, and we see it as a lifelong process, not just a 4-year process at university, but an individual mind map that can actually happen for a lifetime. We see our management tool, again another very versatile application. I'm hoping I'll be able to, this is used in schools as well. You can probably see there's the mind map there, which is the physical board, and the application is then transferred the ideas digitally, and then they work with it digitally. And my kids sort of always work digitally, so it's the future, I think. This is just some really interesting, really nice quotes from a business school, Birmingham Business School in this case, where they see it as a creative matrix. And more recently from the Vice Chancellor of Birmingham City University, who has seen a lot more enlightenment to the students, a lot more ownership of their own learning. So these are the sort of things that we feel can make a big impact on learning and education. Quotes here from Sir Tim Smith at the Eden Project, whoever managed to get there. What I'm particularly proud of is we're actually into 150 schools in India, and my students have been showing the matrix, the diagnostic, and using it with students all over the world. So in a sense, we want the fundamental one, the basic one, to be free to all children all over the world. That's our passion in our, if you like, our mantra. This is a little bit about me. You can have a copy of the slides and read up about me if you wish. What I would like to do is, I'm hoping that this internet is going to work for us, and try to give you some feel for the process itself. So I've got here the yellow icons are interactive, and I'll show you what the green matrix is doing in a minute. So you can put images in the matrix, and we can put videos.
Once you start using it, it makes complete sense. So it was really useful. Really helps you keep track of where the thought processes are going. It was really useful to see it all laid out, so that everybody's ideas were in front of them, literally like light bulbs in the room, and you could see where there was a crossover. 2 or 3 people had the same idea or a different take on the same idea. We can individually all come up with great ideas, but we've still got those same ideas 2 years down the line and haven't really implemented it. So to be able to hold ourselves and each other to account, and to be able to see the progress of those ideas, make them specific and measurable, have dates, just really simplified the whole process. So the whole thing is dynamic and fluid and changing. So what might be important today might not be important tomorrow. Something new will come up. I really like the way that you can access it, and that it doesn't just stop when the meeting's finished. It's it's alive, because that's what business is like. It changes every day, so the matrix can change with it. Well, I think anything that I can access on my iPhone, which is what I live with, take it to bed with me, wake up with it in the morning. I can do the same thing with the matrix. I know it's in some ways a negative, people might think, but it really takes the stress out of the job, I think, being able to look at, track and interact on a 24-hour basis from wherever you are. What really struck me today was that what I think people think isn't necessarily what people think. And that's great when you have a snapshot, so the meeting itself is useful for that. But to have a tool that keeps me in touch with what they're thinking on an ongoing basis, it's just, it's brilliant. It's an absolute goldmine for us, because we might have good ideas, but 10 times out of 10, the people you work with are going to have even better ones, or take your idea and make it better. That's what innovation is.
We got some impression from that is that the exciting thing about the process is that it's accessed 24 hours a day, anywhere in the world, so you can share ideas and processes on the matrix. So the best ideas sometimes maybe happen when you're driving the car and whatever, but to actually coordinate the teams on a level where they can contact each other 24/7 and contribute to a matrix such as that anywhere in the world, and some of the CEOs are using it for that purpose. It's quite powerful. So I'll just show you one other feature that's quite an interesting one, which is really each of the bubbles. I don't know whether anybody knows where that is. It's in Dublin. You should know it, I think. The idea here is that you can go into any bubble at all and open up a new matrix. So literally you could put Wikipedia into this. This is great for me as a lecturer at university, because I've got the whole of my course on one slide. I don't have to go to sequential slides to look. I can just go straight to one of the bubbles and just talk about it. This is Ryanair Academy, if you weren't aware of it, and I've taught at Dublin University and a few other places in Ireland. So we're really quite excited because we believe it's going to revolutionise certainly businesses education it already has. But in healthcare, we see it particularly has a market there, especially since St Andrews, the largest mental health care in the UK, seem to be very, very excited at the prospect of being able to oversee what the patients are doing and helping them to guide them in a sense. Does that make any sense? So I explained it well enough, perhaps? Is there any questions I'd like to ask? You're all dumbfounded, don't know what the hell it is anyway. But yeah, no, well thanks. If there are any questions, obviously you're very welcome to talk to me after the show, as it were. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you.